documents related to the 1968 assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. have been released by the FBI on Monday. In a move that Donald Trump is hailing as a triumph of transparency. But is it one? Interestingly, the release has arrived at a time when the right-wing backlash demanding the release of Epstein files is increasingly mounting pressure on the Trump administration. Announcing the release, the US Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, reiterated that this release follows through on President Trump's commitment to fully release previously classified records. That includes documents on the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Gabbard said the release was carried out in coordination with the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Central Intelligence Agency, and the National Archives. In the release, Gabbard stated that these documents had never been previously digitized. According to Gabbard, the files on King included discussion of potential leads, internal memos discussing the progress of the case, also documents related to James Earl Ray's former cellmate, who claimed he discussed an alleged assassination plot with Ray. Who is Ray? For your information, James Earl Ray is the convicted assassin of Martin Luther King. But several King historians have noted that there's very little revelational in these files about the death of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And most importantly, the trove does not include FBI wiretap recordings of Dr. King and other materials that remain under court seal until 2027. As per the Trump administration officials, the documents include notes on the leads pursued by investigators, interviews with people who knew his killer, James Earl Ray. Previously, unreleased details of interactions with foreign intelligence services during the manhunt for Ray are also included. But critics believe that the FBI wiretaps and other surveillance were part of a larger effort to uncover damaging material on Dr. King. Why so? Because the FBI had hoped to leverage this material only to derail the civil rights movement. Interestingly, those tapes and transcripts have not been released. They still remain under seal. What stands out is Dr. King's well-documented history of extramarital relationships. But Dr. King's family have expressed doubts about the veracity of some previously released documents. This is particularly regarding the more provocative claims about Dr. King's romantic and sexual life. King's family believes they are more of a political conspiracy to undermine the civil rights leader's reputation than of reality. In a statement, Dr. King's surviving children, Martin III and Bernice, argued that their father had been relentlessly targeted by an invasive, predatory, and deeply disturbing disinformation and surveillance campaign. In fact, they have implored researchers and the general public to view all of the government's files in the context of their father's contributions to American society. As a candidate last year, Donald Trump had vowed to release files related to President Kennedy's 1963 assassination and the 1968 murders of Robert F. Kennedy and Dr. King. And just like Martin Luther King, the Kennedy documents too, released in March, contained little information about the assassination itself. Interestingly, on Monday itself, the FBI also released 35 pages of the Clinton document. What's that? A file regarding the improper handling of highly classified information by Hillary Clinton and her use of a private server during her tenure as the Secretary of State. Understandably, Trump's critics have noted that the release comes as Trump and his administration are accused of a lack of transparency over the Epstein files. So much so, civil rights leader Sharpton has labeled the disclosure of the King files as a desperate attempt to distract from the firestorm engulfing Trump over the Epstein files and the public unraveling of his credibility.
It's raining files at the White House. Hillary's emails declassified. FBI records on Martin Luther King Jr. digitized and dumped online. But there's one file Americans really want, and it's still locked up. The Epstein files. Is Trump's sudden transparency just a distraction, or is there more to this political circus? In just 3 months, the Trump administration has released JFK assassination records, RFK files, now over 240,000 pages on Martin Luther King Jr. The MLK files include FBI memos, CIA leads, and decades-old conspiracy theories about James Earl Ray. But there's a catch. The King family didn't want this released. Bernice King called it deeply disrespectful, warning that the documents could be misused to smear her father. Civil rights leader Al Sharpton didn't mince words either, calling it a desperate attempt to change the headlines. Attorney General Pam Bondi is patting herself on the back for delivering transparency. But critics say if Trump can unseal 60-year-old records about Martin Luther King Jr., why can't he unseal Epstein's files about crimes from barely a decade ago? In February, Pam Bondi told Fox News the Epstein client list was on my desk waiting to be reviewed. MAGA influencers cheered. But in June, the DOJ suddenly claimed that there's no client list and the backlash was immediate. Even Trump's loyal MAGA base turned on him. Conspiracy groups like QAnon accused him of protecting elites. Trump tried to calm the storm, telling his boys and gals to lay off Pam. But Epstein's victims aren't buying it. Annie Farmer, one of Epstein's earliest accusers, calls the saga an emotional rollercoaster. She says survivors feel used in a political game. Trump's response to the Epstein firestorm was not transparency or accountability. He instead posted a fake AI-generated video of Barack Obama being arrested in the Oval Office. The clip ends with Obama in an orange jumpsuit behind bars. Critics slammed the move as deeply irresponsible, but Trump's team called it a political satire. Alongside the MLK files, the DOJ quietly dropped a report on Hillary Clinton's infamous email server. The declassified documents reveal the FBI allegedly barely glanced at thumb drives containing sensitive data, including emails from Barack Obama. Senator Chuck Grassley blasted the FBI for an extreme lack of effort. But again, critics point out that these files are new. They're recycled grievances to energize the MAGA base. So why release MLK and Hillary files now? Democrats say it's pure deflection. Representative Pete Aguilar called it a stunt to buy Trump another day without talking about Epstein. Even Bernice King posted, "Now do the Epstein files." Trump's administration promised transparency on Jeffrey Epstein. Instead, they're giving Americans everything but the one thing they're asking for. One question lingers louder than ever. Where are the Epstein files?